You know, we hear a lot of stories about lost knowledge from history, but the story we're about to get into is, well, it's different. This isn't a story about an accidental fire or just the slow, sad decay of time. No, this is a story about the deliberate, systematic erasure of an entire hemisphere's worth of genius.
Just let that number sink in for a second. 95%. Can you even imagine if 95% of all the books in Europe, all the philosophy, science, history, were just piled up and burned in a single generation? That's the scale of the loss we're talking about here. It wasn't an accident. It was an intellectual apocalypse.
So of course, that leads us to the most haunting question of all, doesn't it? What was actually in those books? What incredible knowledge, what amazing stories, what mind-blowing science was written on those pages before they were turned to ash? Well, that's the mystery we're going to try and unpack today.
Okay, so to even begin to understand what was lost, we have to start with the tiny, precious little bit that actually survived. Because even in these few fragments, oh man, you get this absolutely stunning glimpse into the genius of these civilizations.
And we're not just talking about vague accomplishments. Oh no, the few Maya books that survived have astronomical tables so ridiculously accurate they could predict solar eclipses centuries from then. Get this, they tracked the planet Venus with an error of just a few hours over a 500-year period. The kind of math you need to pull that off is just, it's absolutely next level.
And if you want to talk about math, here's the real kicker. The Maya were one of the only cultures in all of human history to independently come up with the concept of zero. It's the cornerstone of all advanced mathematics. And this wasn't an idea they borrowed from someone else. It was a completely homegrown, staggering intellectual leap.
So we have this picture of incredible, brilliant achievement. How in the world was it all just torn down? Well, the scary part is we can actually pinpoint the exact moment this vast library of knowledge was condemned to smoke.
Right, so this wasn't a slow decline. It was an event. For centuries, you had the Maya and other peoples recording everything in thousands of these incredible books. And then, in July of 1562, one man, a Spanish bishop named Diego de Landa, he ordered them all to be collected and burned in a giant bonfire. In a single day, an entire civilization's library was just gone.
And you don't have to take my word for it. Here are his own words. There's no ambiguity here at all. He saw books filled with astronomy, with history, with medicine, and he looked at them and saw superstition and lies of the devil. That was it. That was the justification for one of the biggest acts of cultural destruction in history. It just didn't fit his worldview.
So from the thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of books that once existed, we are left with this. 4. Just 4 pre-Columbian Maya books are known to have made it. Just think about that. Everything we know about their written science, their written history, has to be filtered through just 4 surviving documents.
So here's the most crucial point. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't just collateral damage from a war. To really get what happened, we have to understand the motive, because this was, without a doubt, a deliberate strategy.
You know, it's easy to think of these books as just another casualty of war, but that misses the entire point. The destruction was targeted. See, if you want to truly conquer a people, it's not enough to just occupy their land. You have to break their connection to who they are, to their history, their science, their way of seeing the world. You burn their libraries.
There's actually an academic term for this whole thing: cognitive colonialism. It's the idea that real colonization isn't just about controlling territory, it's about controlling minds. You systematically destroy a people's entire system of knowledge, and you create a vacuum that you can then fill with your own worldview. It was literally an act of intellectual warfare. And this brings us to what is maybe the most tragic and definitely the most speculative part of this whole story. We have to talk about the ghosts in the ashes. What specific kinds of knowledge are now lost to us forever?
We can really only guess, based on their art and the incredible cities they built. But just try to imagine it. Entire libraries on medicine, detailing thousands of plants from the most biodiverse places on Earth. Books on mathematics and engineering that laid out how to build cities like Tikal with such incredible precision. Centuries of astronomical data, just gone. And maybe the most painful part? Their own histories, written in their own words.
And this is not just some abstract loss. Think about this. The tiny fragments of Indigenous American medical knowledge that did survive, just by being passed down orally, gave modern medicine things like aspirin from willow bark and quinine, which was a game changer for treating malaria. So you have to ask yourself, what other cures, what other treatments were written down in those books before they were lost forever?
Look, this isn't just a loss for the descendants of the Maya or the Aztec. This is a hole in the collective story of what humans can achieve. It's our missing history. It belongs to all of us.
And it forces you to zoom out and ask a much bigger question, right? The burning of the Maya books is a really well-documented example, but there's no way it was the only one. How many other libraries, from how many other cultures, have been deliberately torched throughout history in the name of conquest?
And that leaves us with the final and maybe most profound thought of all. It's not just about what they lost, it's about what we all lost. What solutions to modern problems, from medicine to sustainable farming, were on those pages? What totally different ways of thinking about math, or the stars, or even life itself have just vanished? The truth is, we'll simply never know.